Let's begin with MSNBC senior Capitol Hill reporter and host of Way Too Early, Ali Vitale. Also with us, MSNBC's Ariel Hickson, live from Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, and Eli Stokols, White House and Foreign Affairs correspondent at Politico. So, Ali, the vice president is about to head there to Capitol Hill to meet with those Republican senators. What kind of environment is he walking into?
It's going to be a busy day here on Capitol Hill that's likely to end us in the same place that we've ended most of the days for the last 4 weeks, which is not clear to getting out of this ongoing government shutdown. I've been here in this hallway outside one of the committee meetings this morning, talking with senators about how the SNAP inflection point on November 1st, for example, the idea that that program could lapse, leaving millions of people without access to a food line, how that impacts the ongoing debate up here. All of them agree it's a massive problem and one that will amplify the pain that Americans are already feeling from this shutdown. But it's not clear that it actually changes the perspective of anyone in terms of changing their votes. The thing that I keep hearing from people on both sides is that there needs to be some kind of a negotiation. Republicans continuing to say that Democrats just need to vote to reopen the government, and then they can have conversations about the health care subsidies and other things that they've listed as important to them as they hold the line in this fight. And I imagine that's what J.D. Vance is going to come up here to do, both reassure Republicans that that position is the one that the White House backs, and then also continue to talk to his colleagues about the other issues of the day. For example, there are votes coming up in the Senate today on tariffs. That, of course, has been a key priority, not just of the Trump administration for the last few months, but then, of course, on the president's trip through Asia that he's going through right now. But look, the fact that Vance is coming up here amid a shutdown is Republicans' way to continue to hold the line between them and the White House and assure that they are all on the same page, Anna.
I think a lot of people are asking, though, what's going to come out of this meeting? What will you be watching for?
I don't think anything is going to come out of this meeting. And that's not me being a pessimist. I think it's just reading the tea leaves for what they are up here on Capitol Hill. We've been telling this story for 4 weeks now, stretching into a 5th week now. The fact that both sides are feeling confident in their political posturing and not inclined to change their positions, it's not clear. And I've asked every lawmaker that I've had the chance to talk to from both sides of the aisle, what is the off-ramp? How does this end? And none of them have a clear and concise answer. I think the one thing that both sides can agree on at this point is that things will likely not change until President Trump himself gets involved. We've seen his focus, frankly, be split at this point between affairs overseas and affairs here at home. He is, of course, on that Asia swing. But Democrats have been trying to really put Trump in the spotlight on this. But even Republicans agree he is the leader of their party. They have been loath to do much up here without his approval. And until he changes the posture of saying the government reopens and then negotiations happen, I don't think anything is going to be changing.
And before we talk more about the politics and all of that, let's talk about the people who are really suffering because of this shutdown as the impact reaches new levels. Today marks the first day air traffic controllers will miss a full paycheck. Ariel, what's been the effect there?
Well, Anna, as you mentioned, yes, today is the first day that these air traffic controllers are not receiving a paycheck, and it comes as NATCA union representatives are outside of at least 20 different airports across the country handing out leaflets like this one. And this is what it says. It mainly details the negative impacts of the shutdown and how it's really impacting federal workers who are upholding the entire aviation system as we speak. Now, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says that there has been an uptick in the number of air traffic controllers calling out sick. And according to FlightAware.com, there's already over 11,000 delays today as we speak. That's only going to increase. And delays have been going up since Friday from LA to DC. Now, the work of an air traffic controller is critical, and that's why so many of them are taking secondary jobs just to make ends meet. We spoke to one today. Take a listen.
Air traffic control is one of the most stressful jobs out there. We have to be mentally focused 100% right 100% of the time. We make millions or thousands of decisions a day to ensure the safety of the flying public. And now when we're all thinking about how are we going to pay the mortgage that's coming due? How am I going to have childcare? It starts to leak into your brain in a way that is not great. Please open the government. Please find a way to pay air traffic controllers. Relieve us of this financial uncertainty.
You heard that right there. You have to be really mentally ready and prepared to take on a job like that. And many are concerned about the stress that's having not only on air traffic controllers and federal workers, but the stress it's going to have on airports across the country as we get closer and closer to the holidays. That's why many are thinking Thanksgiving could be a big tipping point as we get to the end of this government shutdown.
Ariel, thank you for that reporting. So, Eli, let's talk about the president's role. The Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, says he spoke with President Trump last night about the shutdown. He said the president wants the government opened. Just how engaged is President Trump right now in trying to find an end to this crisis?
Well, it does not seem like it's the top priority right now, Anna. And I mean, you can see that just by the president being overseas. I was with President Biden in 2023 when he cut a Japan trip short because Republicans were threatening to shut down the government. Here we are now 4 weeks into the shutdown, and President Trump is off in Asia. He's asking Kim Jong-un to meet with him, possibly extending the trip. There is not really any urgency, and Ali made this point, on the Republican side, on the White House side, to end the shutdown. We've seen lawmakers, Republican lawmakers on the Hill, really wait to take their cues from this administration, this president, on pretty much everything. And so I think that's right, that they are waiting until Donald Trump tells them, okay, let's negotiate. And until Democrats cave, we're going to be at this impasse. And I think Republicans are fine with that. Yes, there are polls showing that more Americans blame Republicans than Democrats. Republicans control the presidency. They control both houses of Congress. But I don't think the White House is too worried about those polls. I don't think that they see the country, despite all those stories about air traffic controllers and people who are directly impacted. This is really having an adverse impact on their bottom line, their day-to-day finances, ability to keep going. I don't think this White House has been all that moved by those stories, or feels like there is enough public opposition to this to warrant them changing positions. They feel like Democrats have voted for these sorts of budgets over and over again. They're calling them hypocrites for not doing it now. And they're still dug in on this argument that Democrats are to blame for this. And we will see if that changes when the president gets back from Asia. But at the moment, he's off. He's traveling. He's doing other things. He's focused on the ballroom. He's got all these other things going on. I mean, last week before the trip, it didn't even feel like the shutdown was a top 5 story in Washington, D.C.
Well, there's so much to cover.
The
White House. And as you're part of the, journalism and those like us who are all covering this administration. But the president, Eli, has really touted himself as the greatest deal maker. That's what is so bonkers in this situation. You point out, Ali points out, the Republicans follow his lead on just about anything. If he were to talk to them about how to handle this moving forward, could he end this shutdown tomorrow? Why isn't he trying to make a deal as the greatest deal maker?
I think he probably could, but I think, like I said, they don't think that they are suffering political consequences from this that are all that great. They actually feel like they have a better hand.
Are there any wins coming from this?
No, I don't see any wins, but I think it's sort of a standoff. It's they don't want to blink first. This is a president who in this term has just been dictating to everybody else, to the members of Congress on the Republican side. This is a president who's imposing his will. And I don't think he likes the optics of looking like he's bending to Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries. And so I think we're unlikely to see that. Now, can that change? We've seen the president, whether he's dealing with China or other countries, take a really hard line, throw tariffs, up to 100%, and then ratchet them back down and say, well, we need to make a deal. So we can see him, go very quickly in the other direction. I suspect that maybe when he is back from this trip and this is more of a focus, we will start to see possibly some of that repositioning next week. But for now, this does not seem to be bothering this White House one bit. It does not seem to be the country's, number one focus, really. And I think they're comfortable with where things stand, and they'll get to it when the president decides that it's either becoming problematic politically or, something happens. Something else could happen that, brings this into sort of more, greater relief to the country, more clarity about the impact of this. And that could change the politics. But right now we haven't seen that. And so I think you see the president and the White House content to just to ride this out.
Allie, there has been at least some movement among lawmakers as we're now seeing senators introducing these standalone or what they call rifle shot bills to address specific shutdown pain points. You know, some of those standalone measures include a bill to keep SNAP benefits going, another bill to provide pay specifically for air traffic controllers and TSA workers, another bill to pay for troops and other non-furloughed federal employees who are working during the shutdown. Will any of these get a vote? And does this suggest that lawmakers are feeling the heat?
I think that they're feeling the heat to the extent that they know that there are problems that are big that are worth solving. People losing their SNAP benefits, active duty troops going without pay, air traffic controllers already on a shortage, now having the pressure of potentially not coming to work because they have to find other ways to make their ends meet because they don't know when their next paycheck is coming. All of that squeeze is very real. And that's what I see in lawmakers attempting to address those specific problems. But really, it's nibbling around the edges of the root issue here, which is that those problems exist because the government is shut down. And I think we have seen some interesting votes when it comes to, for example, bills that would have paid air traffic controllers or certain kinds of furloughed federal workers. There have been some interesting votes on that. All politics is local, after all, but I think this problem is easy to solve in that it's just solving for the shutdown itself, which, of course, has not proven to be an easy thing to solve for at all in this Washington. But yeah, I think that's what I see happening when you see bills like that go to the floor. And there's some potential, right, on that first furloughed federal workers bill that failed last week, that maybe there's some bipartisan push to get something together on that. But the other concern that I end up hearing from lawmakers, Anna, is that if they start solving for the effect problems, the things that are happening because of this shutdown, there's a worry that then it looks like they are picking winners and losers or who should feel more or less pain when really the central problem still remains, which is that the government is shut down and it's lawmakers' job to fix that.